Hey everybody, this is your usual co-host, Will Ashton, introducing, I guess I should say, you to another instant take here on Cinemaholics. I was just finishing up doing a surprise recording, which you may or may not be able to see by the time this comes out. But since I have the setup all here for podcasting, I figured I'd talk to you about a new and upcoming film that I just saw about a week ago, which is the new Steven Soderbergh film Black Bag, which is pretty much all-star spy thriller. Star maybe a little loosely to say, but it does star Cate Blanchett, it stars Michael Fassbender, it stars Pierce Brosnan, it stars Naomi Harris, as well as Tom Burke. Not exactly sure how you pronounce it. He will be familiar to anyone who saw The Souvenir, as well as Furiosa last year. Regé-Jean Page, the guy from Bridgerton, is in this as well. And Marisa Abela, who was most recently Amy Winehouse in that biopic, which wasn't very good, but I think she was solid in it. I've been excited to see what she does next. I think she's also in Industry on HBO, but that's neither here nor there. They are all the stars of this new movie that is co-written by David Koepp. He has worked now with Soderbergh, I think, 3 times. This is their second collaboration in 2025. They also worked together on Kimi, the HBO Max exclusive that came out a few years ago. And this is, I don't think it's similar to any of the ones they've done before. The previous one that he was involved in was Presence, which is a film I think I liked maybe a little bit more than most. I feel like the reception to it has kind of been mixed. Maybe because of the audacious style, or maybe they felt like it didn't earn its style. But that's neither here nor there. I enjoyed the film, and I think it's worth watching. But I am going to say, while this is a little bit different than their previous 2 collaborations, this is very in line, I think, with what we can expect from Soderbergh. He has always been somebody who has been very good about making slick, stylized, smart, sophisticated entertainment for adults. Movies that, are filled just to the brim with like class and sophistication, as I mentioned before, and just like oozing sensuality and just charisma and all that. And this movie absolutely leans into that wholeheartedly. Full stop. I was combining full stop and wholeheartedly together there. And yeah, I mean, it is, I would have to say, probably one of his most entertaining movies in a while, which is saying something because I think I've been more favorable than not on what he's been doing post quote-unquote retirement. He's been doing a film about like maybe once or so a year. He has done, like I said, a lot of stuff for HBO Max. He did a couple for Netflix. He did some that were like theater exclusive, some that were streaming exclusive. He's also worked on a couple shows here and there. I'm particularly fond of The Nick, which was a Cinemax series. I think is now available on Max. If you haven't had a chance, I highly recommend that one. But anyway, this is a, without giving too much away, sort of like I don't know what you exactly want to refer to it, a little bit Mr. and Mrs. Smith, a little like kind of going back to, kind of out of sight, the old era of Soderbergh in a respect where you have these 2 high-ranking spy affiliates who have been married for a decent period of time, which has been a source of inquiry and confusion for a lot of their fellow coworkers, because the spy business, as you may or may not know, is a business that thrives on anonymity and lies and doing pretty much a lot of dishonest things in the interest of finding or maintaining the truth for one's country. And obviously, if you're married to a spy and they have, all these sort of tricks up their sleeves about how they can maintain their job and their secrecy and what have you, doesn't make for the most honest or transparent relationship. But for reasons I think will become I'll say transparent in the film, they have kind of figured it out, and they have made a very healthy and thriving relationship / marriage over the years. But as we see in the opening scene of the film, there is reason to believe that Cate Blanchett is potentially up to something nefarious and leaking information. And we see over the course of a little over a week what comes to pass as Michael Fassbender tries to get to the truth of what's going on with his wife and the agency and all that jazz. And it just, sizzling with charm and smarts. And I think what I am particularly endeared to is that I think the previous two David Soderbergh movies are really solid in the first two acts. Like, I think they're really, really good movies that I think kind of tamper off by the end. Kimmy, I felt that way in particular. And I do think to some extent that happened with Presence as well earlier this year. And I think what's so gratifying and relieving about this movie is that the third act not only does it feel like a pitfall, it elevates what we've been seeing before. And it feels like a very satisfying and engaging conclusion to the story that's filled with twists and turns and deception and lies and all that jazz. And I also think it's just really nice to see these two stars in a movie that really, I think, kind of plays their strengths. I mean, Michael Fassbender, most recently, I believe we last saw him in The Killer, the David Fincher film, which I thought was excellent and one of the best films of that year. It was a Netflix title that kind of, compared to other Soderbergh movies, slipped under the rug a little bit, and thought that was a shame because that was like one of the best Fincher movies in a long time and easily one of the best Fassbender roles in some time. And I think he continues that high caliber performance in this film. It's a very kind of multi-layered performance that he has to give in this. Someone who is like very cold and conniving on the surface, but has a lot of interior motives, has a sort of inherent weakness, and kind of plays that while also not trying to reveal himself, but also having to kind of show the vulnerabilities that are at play here. It's a very outstanding performance from him, and I think it's matched by a very fun and equally kind of clever and exciting performance from Cate Blanchett, who matches him in every respect in that regard. And yeah, I mean, the cast here really gets I think everyone here that I mentioned really gets to kind of get to stand out in different moments and times, which is exciting for a few of them. Like I mentioned, like Marisa Abela didn't really live up to her full potential, I'd say, with that Amy Winehouse movie. But also the guy from Bridgerton, I feel like everything I've seen him in movie-wise, and I've only seen maybe a handful of things, if that, maybe like one or two things, actually. And I feel like they haven't really shown me, like, what's the deal with this guy. I didn't watch Bridgerton. I don't quite know the appeal, other than he's, like, very handsome, very British and all that. But this movie, you kind of get to see that more, and I can see why this guy is a star on the rise, and I'll be curious to see if he can lean into what he displays here even more as time goes along. Other than that, this is Soderbergh, so he's kind of running the full ship. He's, directing the dang thing, he's editing the dang thing, he's shooting it, and it's all very, very yellow. It's very, very sharp. It's a brisk, like 95 minutes or something. It moves like a, bullet train. It just kind of keeps you engaged throughout and never really lets up, thankfully. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be everyone's cup of tea. I can say that because it takes place in Britain. But I think a lot of people are really going to like it. I know my screening room was like buzzing afterwards. I've been seeing, I think, only positive things so far, at least critically, which has been really exciting. I don't know if it's going to be like a box office smash the way that some of Soderbergh's earlier films like Ocean's 11 was, but I can see this one having mainstream appeal in a way that I think some of his kind of more experimental recent films have not been able to, for one reason or another, kind of catapult into the mainstream as easily. This is, like I said, just Soderbergh kind of going back to what he does best. It's very much in line with what we've seen from him, but also just kind of feels like a proper extension of what we've seen from the director, kind of just fully owning it, kind of being at the height of his powers and just making another rock solid, fun, sturdy, sexy movie. And I think if you go see it in theaters, you're not going to be disappointed in the least. But it's also a fun date night movie at home if you don't get the chance to see it in theaters. So yeah, I definitely recommend this one. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. I hope you agree, and thank you for listening. I'm going to keep it short. We're just about 10 minutes in. I'm kind of tired. I've been doing podcasting all day, so I'm going to get like a drink of water, hit stop, and say goodbye to you fine folks. Hope you have a good day.